Hi again, my fantastic 439 students. Here's Dr. A with your week 6 update. Is that where we are now? Time is just flying by. Yeah, I think we're on week 6. So I'm really excited about looking over your questioning activity assignment that you are turning in today or tomorrow. I'm recording this on Thursday, posting it on Friday, so all of those will be in. Anyway, I'm excited to look over the assignment from last week and see all the Bloom's questions or the questions and the Bloom's levels that you came up with, and hear how your partner activity went, questioning somebody else on the fly, coming up with questions. It's a cool thing to practice, and hopefully that was a good experience for you. So we are moving forward, and we're going to build on that and start jumping into essentially building the basis for our major assignment for the semester, or one of your major assignments. So we're going to start looking at like a longer term picture for the rest of the semester. So where we're building on last week's module is this article that I want you to read from the University of Chicago on asking effective questions. It's a really good resource that I like. I've read it and had it kind of in my back pocket, wanted to share it with you, but didn't want to throw another thing on you last week. So I'm asking you to read it and start to think about how you can use these different questions as different tools in your toolbox as you are in your classroom. And this is going to tie into lesson planning and unit planning, which is where we're going to go with the rest of the stuff. So a couple other things I want you to read and review. First thing is a handout I created about learning objectives. What learning objectives should include, how to write clear learning objectives. If you have any questions on it, let me know. Mainly, there's a couple of pieces I'm looking for in your learning objective, specific content and conditions and the formatting that we're going to use throughout this program. So I want you to review that so you understand my expectations moving forward. Another part that I'm going to ask you to check out is an instructional strategy. This class is called Instructional Strategies, so we're going to continue to explore new ones. So I found this really interesting thing over the summer called the TQE method, and it's to help facilitate good discussions and dialogue in classrooms. So I am really excited to share that with you. So I want you to read over that. With the following condition. Looking at the TQE method, I'm always trying to be mindful of who it's appropriate for, which audiences, because obviously a social studies classroom doesn't look exactly like a science classroom. And some things overlap, and some of those strategies are going to be really useful no matter your content area. And sometimes we differentiate based on those content areas because of the nature of the classes. So the TQE method I think is most appropriate for science, social studies, and English language arts teachers. So if you are one of those 3 content areas, I want you to read that article. If you are a math person, discussion is really, really important in math classes, and researchers argue that we should do more of that. So I've actually gathered a couple of different articles. I want you to read at least one of them. They're all in a folder on Blackboard. So I want you to pick one of those at least and check it out. You're welcome to check out the TQE article if you are a math person, and if you have any ideas on how that could be adapted to a math classroom, I would love to hear about it because I'm really curious about it. So all of that is kind of just some background and building up. Now, the next thing, the part that I want you to be turning in. So hopefully, maybe, possibly, you are familiar with this idea of backwards design. This is one way that we plan lessons and units and create learning opportunities for our students. And the idea is that we look at the end and then we go backwards to the beginning. So the end are like, what's the outcome? What's the ultimate goal? What's the target we're aiming at? So we start with that, and that should drive our instruction. From there, we start looking at like how would we assess our students to say, okay, did we reach that goal or not? Like, what would be the minimum expectations that we would have that our students could prove to us, yes, we have mastered this objective, this goal, this standard, we are good to go, move forward. So you take your standard, you figure out your assessment, and then you let that drive your instruction. You figure out, okay, if this is what I want them to get out of it, and this is how I'm going to assess assess them at the end. How can I create learning opportunities for our students to come up with the ideas and to work towards mastery of these goals? So we're going to take this idea of backwards design, and I'm going to ask you to fill in the beginnings of a unit planning document. Now, in the past, you've written lesson plans, and this semester, I'm going to ask you to write a unit plan. So a unit plan is 3 to 5 days, 3 is minimum, of lessons that you're going to use for your classroom. If you're in placement, feel free to talk to your teacher. Hey, where might we be November, like before Thanksgiving break? And figure out that content area if you can start to build some ideas, some lessons around that time. That way you can actually implement this if your teacher okays it. So what I'm looking for is for you to create at least 3 consecutive days of teaching. It doesn't have to be like the intro and then day 2 and day 3. It could be like, this is the big unit that my teacher's going to be teaching, and I'm going to try to plan for 3, 4, and 5, or 6, 7, and 8, depending on the unit. But what I want you to do is to start to think, what do you want your students to get out of that? What are going to be the essential questions? What are going to be the learning objectives for each individual day? All of those little details. I'm not worried about instruction right now. I'm not worried about your classroom management. Those pieces will come later. So what I've done is I've created this document, the unit planning document, that I want you to start to imagine and pull some of these pieces together. It's going to ask you about your Missouri Learning Standards. It's going to ask about your essential questions, your rationale, like why is this important? Why do I even need to bother teaching this? And then you're going to look at the big picture and start to break it down into those 3 individual days. If you want to add on to it and do more than 3 days, you are totally welcome and invited to do so. But 3 is the minimum. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to develop this document, come up with it, make sure your learning objectives are following the format that I'm asking of you with the SWOBOT and all the content and conditions and all of that. So you're going to create this document, and then you are going to find at least 2 of your classmates to give you feedback on this. You can do like 3 of you get together and like all trade, or I can ask this person and this person, but they're asking this person and this person, whatever it takes to make sure that you get feedback from at least 2 different people. And on that document, it's going to ask you to show me the feedback that they've given you and then your response to it. So how did it change your lesson? Why do you disagree with it? When you're giving feedback to others, remember, I want Oreo feedback. So some positives, some constructive criticism, some positive. Also keeping in mind what Berger, Strasser, and Woodfin say about feedback being kind, specific, and helpful. So keep all of that in mind. So that's your assignment. When you are arranging yourselves to find the people that you're going to give feedback for, it is your mission as an entire class to form inclusive groups. And by that, I mean that you should arrange yourselves and work collaboratively as a class to make sure that nobody gets left out. This is the responsibility of the whole class. All of you are working in conjunction on this. So if anybody gets left out, I'm going to see that as a failure on behalf of the entire group. So let's avoid that. The only exception, of course, would be if somebody doesn't actually complete the assignment. And then I won't hold that against the class. But if people are willing and actively trying to find groups and people are getting left out, you've got to work together. You've got to come together to make sure that everybody is getting at least feedback from 2 different people. If you have any questions, let me know. Office hours by appointment. Got to go into my office again this week. It is very stark and boring and white in there. I need to do some decorating. I do like my office at my house. Nice decorations and my fan, you can see. But definitely willing to meet anybody at Starbucks on campus or the Union or Hill Hall or wherever you need so we can chat, or of course Zoom is always an option. So looking forward to seeing what you're coming up with. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Remember to take care of yourselves, take care of those around you. Do something to keep yourself sane in the midst of this. Looking forward to chatting with more of you. Have a great day.